Hey, welcome back to my channel. Yes, this is your favorite girl, Machi, on Lifestyle with Machi. You're welcome back here. Thank you so much. So, how have you been? How are you doing? How are you preparing for Christmas? Today is 23rd of December 2021 as I'm recording this. If I'm fast enough with my editing, it should be out tomorrow, 24th. So yeah, how are you preparing for Christmas? It's just 2 days now. 2 days. What's the celebration going to be like at your side? Did you buy clothes? Because I did not. My family isn't here. I miss my mom. So I hope you're having fun. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you're safe where you are. Yeah, today is going to be more of a chit chat, and the topic I'll be handling is racism in Philippines. Yep. So I've been getting these questions, most especially when I talk with my friends back home. They ask me, how are you coping with racism in the country? So I felt like this is one topic that I want to treat before the year runs out. Okay? Are you with me? Are we together? There was this meme trending online. There was this meme trending online on Instagram where some people were posting that the only thing they remember from their mathematics class is the teacher saying, "Are you with me?" Okay? Are you with me? So yeah, I'm going to talk about racism in Philippines. Have I experienced racism? What is it really all about? What's the degree? What's the intensity of racism? How often do I encounter racist attack or racist situation or anything racist living here in the Philippines? So all that and more is what I'm going to be talking about in today's episode. So I hope you are going to be there with me. Oh my gosh, I don't know. There's something about this Christmas period. For the past few days, my mood has just been heightened. Or probably it's just the hormone. Maybe it's the hormones. Because, there's nothing in my budget about this Christmas, so I don't know. But I'm just happy, I feel hyperactive. I feel energetic. I feel like I can climb a mountain. Tallest mountain with this energy at the moment. Okay, before I bore you out with my okay, so let's get into it. The first question is, what is racism? What is racism? When you hear racism, what comes to your mind? Do you think it's only black people that get racist attacks? Do you think? No, of course not. Racism can come from any race. It can come from black against white. It can come from white against black. It can come from Caucasians against blacks, and vice versa. So yeah. But what is racism altogether? So racism is a false notion of a superiority complex of an individual to another. That's the layman's term that I'm going to put in. So it's like somebody feeling that they are better than you, probably based on the economical standard or popularly your skin tone. Maybe your geographical location as well can also be part of the key issues that come into play when you talk about racism. And sometimes it's just a combination of prejudice and stereotypes all summed up together. Ethnocentrism that went on unchecked for a long period of time. So yeah, racism is like a cankerworm which has eaten into the bed for so long, like it's everywhere, no matter how much people fight. I don't know. I don't want to say that racism will always be here, because that's not a positive thing. But as I see it, it's like something you just have to get to deal with on a daily basis. And as a black person, you would agree with me that it's harder on us than people of other races. I'm not trying to minimize the racist attacks or the racist effects on other races, but it's known to be more prone against blacks, people of my skin tone. This is my beautiful, gorgeous, caramel shining, melanated skin tone. Can you imagine that? I pity people. I pity people. Okay, moving on. So, what does it feel like as an African experiencing racism here in the Philippines? Or before that questions, I should rather answer, does racism exist in the Philippines? You might be wondering, does racism exist in the Philippines? Philippines is in Asia, so mostly if you're in Africa, when we talk about racism or when you hear about racism, you read about it in the newspaper or you watch it on the telly, what you usually think is America, the land of the free, you know, whites against black Americans and all that. But lo and behold, yes, racism exists here in the Philippines. Now, the difference is the degree as compared to, for example, the US, the UK, Canada, and all the European countries. So yeah, it exists here in the Philippines. Have I experienced racism? Definitely. Not once, not twice, severally. But then, at what degree have I experienced racism? Unlike some of my friends, very close friend of mine, she's a girl that has trusted in me with the story of the racist experience, racist encounter she has had in this country. It was really, really wild on her own experience. You know, like she did mention a particular time she traveled within this period of pandemic earlier this year. She had gone somewhere outside our own city. So, you know, within the period of pandemic, it was hard to get transportation, city to city and all that. So she managed to get one, but what happened was this, she was with a girlfriend also. So when they got into the bus, everybody in the car alighted, leaving them there in the car. And when they stepped down, they were murmuring and then laying complaints to the driver and the conductor. This happened here in the Philippines. They were murmuring and in turn were complaining that they don't want to ride with the two black girls in the car. This is my very good friend. She told me about it. Because, you know, like when we talk about racism, I'm like, okay, I've not really experienced it that full blown in this country, but that doesn't mean I'm trying to diminish any other person's experience, you know. So she was like, come on girl, this is what I've experienced, and that's going to actually affect her own outlook on racism in this country. Because if I am to talk about racism being mild in this country, she wouldn't have the same opinion, definitely, because her experience was different, right? So yeah, that was what happened. So they went down from the bus and they were complaining that they were not going to ride everybody in the car. Can you imagine that? And that was like these coaster buses, the terminal buses, luxurious ones. So they complained, and that the very first car that they entered, it happened. So when they complained, the conductor went back inside and asked them to get down from the bus. They tried to find out why, you know, they will give you one flimsy excuse or the other, but you can use your tongue and count your teeth now, you know already what's going on. So they don't have any other option, they couldn't do anything about it. So they sluggishly went down from the car. And then the second bus they entered, the same thing tried to happen. Like they entered, the few people that were already in the car started going down from the car. And then the ones that come around to enter, they see that they are inside, they will not get inside. You get? So it was kind of painful, you know, like what's this all attitude all about? Like, why would you do something like that to your fellow human being? It's not like that person is like decaying or smelling or stuff. So what exactly is your reason? Well, like, how do you explain this racism of a thing? Different skin tone, so you don't want to ride with the person. So they were like, nah, they're not getting down this time around, because time no day. And then again, buses were not that many for you to just keep on going down, because some few, if you don't want to ride, then they're not getting down. That was what they settled for. So then again, the conductor went to them and they were like, ma'am, can you please step down, because the other riders, they cannot ride with you if you don't go down from the bus. So they were like, no, why would they have to go down? If they don't want to ride, they can't ride, you know. They were just like trying to, you know, protest at least. Then they said the only thing that helped them that day was that one Filipino, a guy, came on board and saw the both of them, seeing how the car was. He noticed what was going on. You get, so probably, you know, there is always someone different from the crowd. That's why I don't like to use a singular person's encounter or experience and judge an entire country, you know. So the Filipino stepped down and he got mad at the rest of the Filipinos that were there. He told them, like, you guys are not being nice. Why would you not want to enter a car because of two black girls in the car? Like, what kind of reasoning do you have? You have to go out of your country to actually experience and see diversity, because how do you explain this situation? You want them to step down? They're foreigners, they don't have any way to commute aside from this one, and then transportation is very scarce at the moment. But then why are you doing this? So he said the guy was mad that he went ahead shouting at the driver, the conductor, and then tried taking a picture of the car plate number. It was the gingering from the Kuya that actually made them go back into the car. So they actually rode with them that day and they did not die. So what's your excuse? What was the reason behind the whole thing? You know, it's crazy. So that's what she said about her own experience. And to me, when I talk about, like, when we talk about racism, I always feel sorry for racists, you know, because I feel like it's not just myopic, it's do I say how do I place this word? It's unwise and rather immature as well as foolish. You get, for you to feel that because you're of a different skin tone, then you're better than anyone else. First of all, this is not just for me to boast or anything, but I wouldn't change, you see this skin tone, I wouldn't change it for anything. And then again, as an African, having been that this is the first country that I am living in aside from my country home, Nigeria. So coming here, nobody prepared me for a racist encounter. Like, there was no pep talk about, oh, you're going out of the country, expect to experience racism and all that. I was not even thinking about that, because in my mind I'm like, okay, it's not US, it's not Canada, it's not UK. I never thought anything racism about this country before coming into the country. So nobody prepared me for it. And then again, me being me and my kind of personality, I feel like for you to think you're better than me because of your skin tone, then you must be stupid, because that's obviously your own complex issue, which ordinarily has no way of affecting me unless I allow it to. Because how can you think you're better than me because you're this color and I'm the other color? I pity you. Seriously, that's how I say it. But then with time, even with the tough skin that you tend to develop, you know, with time you kind of transforms into anger when such situations occur. Take, for instance, for me, the experiences of racism that I've encountered. There has been a particular incident that happened to me whereby I was traveling from my city to another city. So that day also there was scarcity of transport. So I had waited at the bus stop for a period of 1 hour and counting. We were many there, but I was with the few first people that were at the bus stop. So eventually a bus came, and because there was scarcity of transportation, you expect everybody to rush for the car, right? So everybody rushed for the car. Here I do understand that even in such situations, you give a leeway for the senior citizens to enter the bus first. So yeah, that's an exception. So when we all rushed for the bus to enter, I noticed one thing. You know, what the conductor did that day was rather funny, you know. So it's like when we all got, because I was sitting close to where the buses will stop when they get to the bus stop, right? So I was part of the first few persons that got to the door to enter the bus when it stopped. So when I tried, the first few people entered, and then when it was my turn, I was trying to get into the bus. What the conductor was doing was like, if I come to the left, he will like move towards the left as though he's shifting for someone to pass, you know. He didn't want to come out of the way. And then when I moved to the left, to the right, he would do the same thing. At first I felt like, you know, like I was trying to fight my way in, so I wasn't looking up. So I thought like, okay, maybe he's trying to shift and that's how the thing was going. Until I looked up to him, I found out that he was intentionally blocking me so that I would not enter the bus that day. Ask me how. Okay, I was part of the first few that got to the door to enter the bus that day. And many more from behind me entered. As a matter of fact, it was just like me and then the last few people, 2 or 3 persons that came to the bus stop, and we were more than 10 that day that couldn't enter that bus. And I was part of the first few that got to the door. So this man kept on doing that thing until the bus was filled up. And then he told me, wala space, ma'am. I was furious, like my body was, the anger that day, I wanted to show the Nigerian in me, but you know now, you cannot be shouting at a bus that is already moving, like, are you okay, are you normal? So that was the thing. And you could tell from the eyes of the conductor that he knew what he was doing and it was intentional, because as the car moved, he kept on staring at me. You know, there's a difference from people that will see a foreigner with braids and they're like, oh, your hair is nice and all that. It was different. He was looking at me like with that scorn of thug. So that was I think that's the highest, or the second highest racist encounter I've had in this, the second highest racist encounter I've had in this country. And then there was also another incident whereby when I was sick, that I was going to a different city. The hospital was located in a different city, so I usually go to that city for my checkups. So one of these days, I was late. And that city is like 3 hours away from mine. So I was late from the hospital. I was coming back and the bosses I was like, imagine I was sick, yeah. But after that checkup, the whole situation that day, I got bus, but I got it very late and then there was no space to sit down, so you have to stand. So I stood in that car, and ordinarily when you're standing, you have to hold the, what do you call it, the iron bar in the car. So you hold the iron bar in the bus, and then it's only normal that you should rest by the armchair armchairs in the car, right? So I held the iron bar, but the car was moving, so I was dangling. And that day I was super tired from morning to night. Only thing I ate was like snacks, and I was sick as well. So I tried to rest myself by the chair next to me, you know. I noticed that the lady who was sitting there, she was even old. Can you imagine that? An old lady that will have kids and grandkids that should know more. You get what I'm saying? She just kind of, when I tried to rest by the side, I wasn't inconveniencing, I wasn't touching her by any means, just by the side so that I can hold myself as the car was dangling. This woman shifted herself, like she moved her weight from where she was properly sat, shifted it out a little bit from her chair space so that she can push me away. And then as that was not like working for her, because I was like tired, I said, well, what's this one? I will still rest my arms, or I don't know what your intention is. She carried her chair, her bag, one big bag like that she kept on the floor of the car. She brought it up and placed it to just that small space that I was resting on the chair, on the car. She did not allow me to rest on that space that day. I turned, I looked at her, like she could see that I was looking at her. She bent her head. I was like, how can you at this age, like even if you know, like even if you don't know much, there is some things that age will, I expect, maybe that's my kind of person, so I expect that with age you should know better. With exposure, with experience, you should know better. As old as she was still acting like that. So that was another situation that I personally encountered, and I'm like, nah, this thing about racism, man, it dies hard. It dies hard. So many other encounters. You get to enter local buses like the jeepneys. You find out as a foreigner, if I'm wrong, correct me. Most foreigners in this country can relate to this. As a foreigner, you enter a jeepney, right? Nobody is going to sit next to you in that jeepney. Jeepney, that is just like from here to here. It's not like a long distance transportation. Nobody in that jeepney will sit next to you until every other space is filled up. You know, jeepney, how it's arranged is like 10 each row. Unlike now, the pandemic might be like 4 or 5, yeah? But then imagine having to sit at a space that is just empty, maybe two persons are sat on the left row, on the right row, right, and you sat there, and there is still space for like 7 more persons, and there were already 5 seated at the left row. But the more people that are coming in are sitting at the other left-hand side already has 5, 7, 8 persons until it is filled up. And then when it is even time to fill up the other side, you will find out that we'll start from the edge until there is no other option. The person will come and sit next to you. The only situation in jeepney that people have not, like natives have not done that to me, like I found out people that randomly come and sit next to me without necessarily trying to fill other spaces are usually lesbians and gays in this country, because they are more open-minded. I have had that experience, like uncountable. Like normally when I ride, that's the one that you know together. Normally daily you experience it, and it's always lesbians or gays that will come and sit next to you before every other space is filled. Aside from that, every other person will just avoid you unless there is no other option. You won't find someone that just next to you that is the only space left. They will rather not come inside. So when we talk about racism, it's exists here, very much does exist, but it's just like not pronounced as in the Western world. That's just the thing. It exists here. Then how do you deal with racism? Like I said earlier, to me, I feel sorry for them. That's how I see it, because as an African, I don't have an experience of racism before coming here. So it's like a do I say culture shock? Is that like a culture shock? It's like new to me, you get. So, and then again, I have no inferiority issue. So for you to think that you're better than me because of skin tone, no more, sorry is your name, you get. So how I deal with it, I sometimes I don't care. Sometimes when I'm mad, I'll just give you the stare, because I'm not about to start exchanging words with somebody in public and then you find yourself on Facebook trending, because it's very easy to just record you these days now and put online, you get. So it's very silly, like, for people to think ordinarily because of the stories you've heard about a particular people or your skin tone or economic standards that you're better off, you know. It's a danger of the single story, because you might have heard that Africans are poor, Africans they eat off the floor, but that's not always true. You find out that there are more Africans that are actually living well compared to some other people from other parts of the world, but that's not broadcast as much as the African is broadcast. When you hear things about Africa, you always hear them like as the lowest of the lows, like it's the world what's it called, disease continent. It's not so. There is so many good things that come out of come out of Africa, and I'm one of them. You hear people ask you things like, oh, in Africa, do you guys have electricity? In Africa, do you guys use a refrigerator? Is Africa in Nigeria? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine that? So I'll just suggest, like, the way to go about racism is to be open-minded about a lot of things. There are a lot of things that I myself, since I've come into this country, I've become more open-minded about, aside from the fact that I've always been an open-minded individual from Nigeria back home. So it's like you have to be more open-minded. You have to understand that there is more to a people than the story that is told in the media. There is more to a people than the story that is told in the media. So you have to actually be able to accept that you don't know it all. Accept that the side of the story you know might actually be the false aspect of the story. That's just the thing about way forward when it comes to racism, stereotypes, and prejudice, you know. So I'm talking as a black person living in this country, and of course I do understand that even Filipinos themselves outside of this country do experience racism also in countries like US or even China, you know, like it do happen to them, you know. So it's everywhere. It's not just a matter of white against black, like I said when I was introducing this topic. It's everywhere. So whomever you are, whatever color of skin you have, be more open-minded and accepting of people. You know, that's the only thing that will help you. And then because even in this country alone, Filipino against Filipinos, you know, the ETAs, I've read about the ETA people. They have darker morena skin like that. So the ones with the the ones with the lighter skin tend to feel that they are superior to the ones with the darker skin. Like, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. It's just skin tone. It's just skin tone, for Christ's sake. And this issue of racism, it's so deep such that it does affect some people. I acknowledge that I don't feel fazed about it. Personally, I don't. But it does affect some people. Because then you have this issue from racism, then you have this issue of colorism, where a black person wants to be seen as a white person, or seen as a as a white person. You know, you tend to start gradually changing your skin tone, your features and all that, so that you can suit in, because it's hard, especially if you're somewhere that you are the minority. You get? So in general, let's do better. Let's do better. Read about people. Read about culture and diversity and everything. There are thousands, if not millions, of cultures in the world. So what makes you think that yours is superior to any other person's own? It's called diversity, and it should be acknowledged and accepted. That's the beauty of life. What do you think? You know? How can you look down on me because of my beautiful braids? My caramel skin, my nose feature? Like, how? Just tell me how. So yeah, that's the issue of racism. It does exist in the country, but it's not that pronounced as compared to the Western world. And on my part, I've not really experienced it that deeply, but of course I've experienced it, and more people have had it worse. So do better. And thank you. We've come to the end of today's topic of discussion. I'm just going to ask you that if you've not subscribed to my channel, to do what? Subscribe to this channel, Lifestyle with Machi, and let's get this rolling. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to turn on your notification bell. What's wrong with me? Yeah, it's a bye from me. Have a wonderful day.